Hello, and thank you for downloading Witness from the BBC World Service. It's 35 years since the Museum of Contemporary Arts was opened in Tehran. It has one of the finest collections of 20th century Western art outside Europe and North America, a collection currently valued at about $2 billion. Rosita Riazati has been talking to the museum's architect and founder, Kamran Diba.
It's October 14th, 1977. Hundreds of eager Iranians, dressed in tuxedos and evening gowns, have gathered in Lale Park in central Tehran, waiting for the Shah and the Queen, who are due to open the Tehran Museum of Contemporary Art.
When the royal couple got out of the car, already some people had gathered around the entrance of the museum, and one lady jumped out of the queue and grabbed the king, the Shah of Iran, and the Shah was very nice and friendly and had a little chat with her, and then they continued inside.
Kamran Diba is the museum's first curator and director. He has invited the cream of Iranian high society, artists, ambassadors and writers, as well as prominent figures in the international art world to the opening.
The most important person there was the ex-Vice President of the United States, Nelson Rockefeller. His family created MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and he called the museum one of the most beautiful museums of the world.
Kamran Diba had also designed the modern concrete building, which merged elements of traditional Iranian architecture and modern Western influences. It was his job to act as the tour guide to the royal couple.
In the end gallery, I had commissioned a work by Haraguchi, was a Japanese artist. He had made this oiled kind of a tank, which had a very shiny, dark surface, which looked solid. And later on, I saw similar work in the Saatchi Gallery, in the first Saatchi Gallery in London. When the Shah looked at it and asked me what it is, I said, this is oil. He didn't believe me, he thought I'm joking. Of course, Iran was concerned with the oil. He was a big producer of the oil and all the economy. Even the museum came from the oil money. But he didn't believe me. He just put his hand into it and got his hand messy. And of course, then a lot of handkerchiefs were offered to clean his hand. So this was kind of a parody, the king got his finger oily, which I feel in a sense, this oil business and was very, very much responsible for his overthrow of the regime eventually, because of the disruption in the socio-economical structure of the society, which a lot of money brought in.
That oil income allowed vast amounts of money to be spent on hundreds of works of art, including masterpieces by Monet, Picasso, and Jackson Pollock's mural on Indian red ground, today valued at about $200 million. The task of purchasing these paintings became a joint project between Kamran Diba and the Queen.
Once I went to her office and she showed me this Pollock, which somebody sent the transparency to her office. And she told me it's too expensive. We cannot pay $1.5 million. It was expensive, but I told her this is the flower of the collection because it's a rare thing. We have many good paintings. In many museums there are many good things. But there's something about Pollock, which has to do with American legacy. It has to do with a martyr, which died early and did these drip paintings and so forth. And there were also maybe better painters than Pollock, I think de Kooning, I think is even better painter. But Pollock is kind of a magic, and there weren't many American art outside of America.
Tehran Museum of Contemporary Art was one of the first museums of its kind outside Europe and America, and it provoked a mixed international reaction.
The French were very critical. They said that what is the meaning of a Picasso to a boy on the street? I could ask right today, what is the meaning of Picasso in London to a boy, English boy, from the East End? What is the meaning of Picasso? So this is a ridiculously colonialistic, imperialistic question that they put to me. And also Herald Tribune, criticized us that why don't we make a traditional museum? And the idea is that has nothing to do with tradition. We are not in bazaar, it's not Alibaba 40 thieves, which we are not sitting on a flying carpet. But on the other hand, the German press praised us.
The reaction from home, however, was more welcoming, and the gallery appealed not only to artists and students, but to an ever-increasing spectrum of Iranian society.
One day in the museum, they came to me and said that one religious man, mullah, is like Arabs, they call it imam, is a man with a turban, They said he's in the museum, It was very unusual because these people, they didn't venture out. What is it? Maybe he came here to tell people, to attack the museum or destroy the collection. I was very concerned. So I went tiptoeing, behind the columns and I observed him. Then I noticed that he's there with his wife. Of course, his wife has Islamic cover and with two children, which they were well-dressed, like upper-middle-class children. And he brought his children to show the collection with him and his wife. So I laughed immediately and I went and told the security man in the museum, just leave them. Just forget it. This is nothing, it's just a civilized man.
But within a short time, the first signs of the Iranian Revolution were being felt. By January 1978, thousands of Iranians had taken to the streets of Tehran in their attempts to overthrow the Shah. Strikes and demonstrations inevitably affected the museum too.
Just a year after my directorship, I had a rebellion. I went on a vacation and somebody called from the museum and said that part of the staff has rebelled against you. And I said, what they want, what they say. They said, okay, their complaint is that you've been a dictator and you have not consulted them when you bought pieces. And I said, well, they don't know anything about Western art. How could I consult them? Consult them about prices? I mean, what kind of a consultation I could get with some of these staff? So this was not unusual because everybody rebelled everywhere against the authorities of any sort. Anyhow, I had to tell them I did it my way. I should have played the Frank Sinatra record. But anyhow, this was done, and then I resigned. I went to the Queen, and Queen somehow also fired me very politely. And then I thought I'd go on a vacation. So I went on a vacation with 2 suitcases, and then my wife followed with another suitcase. And I was lucky that she had a house in London, my wife being British. And that's it. We never went back.
Today, Kamran Diba lives in Paris, continuing his work as an architect and artist. During the revolution, the museum was closed, and the paintings were locked in the basement. When it reopened, certain paintings were redisplayed, but those considered un-Islamic stayed hidden in the storage. Kamran Diba's vision had been to create an environment for artists to exhibit their work and learn about contemporary art. This legacy still remains as the museum continues to showcase Western art to an Iranian audience.
Rosita Riazati. For details of our complete range of downloads and our terms of use, go to bbcworldservice.com/podcasts.